connection with the people that were involved in creating the Central Intelligence Agency in the United States to the formation of the Senior Executive Service or the Office of Personnel Management. I didn't manage to make that link, but it's not to say it isn't there. I just got overwhelmed with other things that I was finding. So I want to talk about those today, and I want to propose to you that I think it is possible that the people involved in the foundation of the Senior Executive Service, that they trace back to what happened at the end of World War II. And what I say happened at the end of World War II was that neither the Axis powers nor the Allied powers won. I think the people who won World War II were the globalists, the industrialists, the people we know as the New World Order. I think that at the end of World War II, they managed to achieve so many goals that they have steadily applied pressure in all of the right places to bring about the crisis point that I think we're at today.
Absolutely. I will be emailing on her. She's the best, especially for people that just waking up, and you can be awake and still learn.
With revelations that may be part of the biggest whistleblowing event to date.
I'm one of thousands faceless, patriotic Americans that worked within the shadows. I've been doing that for a very long time. People that worked for John Brennan approached me while I was in my specialist training while I was in the Navy. When I was recruited, it was for electronic warfare. Then I ended up in information warfare, and ironically, the base that I first went to for electronic warfare is now information warfare.
My job for a company called Analogy, which was owned by Obama's National Security Advisor, General James Jones, and I answered directly to his son. I worked for them for about 8 years, from like 2007 to 2010. My focus was primarily in the development on a couple different contracts for the Department of Defense for the development of the capabilities for interactive internet activities, being something that helps support CNO, which is computer network operations, hacking and different things like that, and information operations, which would be your actual influence operations. It's a supporting application that really, it's kind of like a Microsoft project, right? Which allows you to manage large projects, like enterprise level projects. But instead of like managing the building of the construction of a 14-story building, it's managing the most, malevolent operations that you could imagine.
I was a contractor for various intelligence agencies that were privately created. So they were private contracting agencies because unlike what most people think, our intelligence doesn't stay within our borders or within federal buildings.
The ShadowNet was the commercial version of an IIA weapon, IIA being interactive internet activity, and IIA weapon, IIA being interactive internet activities. That's the military nomenclature for what basically you've heard being described for the last 3 or 4 years. All fake news, the fake news journalists, and fake stories, fake dossier, all of these things are attributes and characteristics of IIA, which is social media psychological warfare. We began that really in 2007, when right after the policy guidelines first came. We were on one of the first contracts with the DoD that I owned, trying to help the Force Psychological Operations Group understand how to go from dropping flyers from planes to a more micro-targeted social media psychological warfare application where you could select an individual target or a group target or an entire country if you wanted to.
What I did was something called localization, or L10N. So a localization strategy is you find a group of people that
you can use their fears, you can use their anxieties. Sound anything like pandemics that you recognize here?
Oh yeah, definitely.
So you can use those things to help reflexively control or influence and target an individual, whoever it is, right, or a group of people, or an entire election, an entire country.
what Patrick Berge created was a program that was based off of the strategies that we use in person. It was a psychological operation, but that crunches data with the use of psychological operations. So you can predict how your target will respond.
You know, I spent like 7 years overseas, right? Several years, a couple of those years were specifically related to IIA. So I understood certain things.
When we hijacked the Afghan elections, how did we do that? We had to understand how the Afghans think.
Edward Snowden goes public with the NSA program, PRISM, revealing the NSA collects internet traffic of all U.S. citizens from major internet and telecom companies through the FISA 702 program. Snowden's actions kicked off on the federal level justification for spying on U.S. citizens, including the Senate and Congress, in the name of preventing U.S. citizens with classified or top secret clearances from being able to repeat Snowden's actions. This opened the door for the creation of ClearForce. July 4th, 2013, CGI and GCHQ launch a defense protection partnership which includes sharing threat intelligence. So these were all private corporations that even had foreigners working in them, and they had access to NSA servers? Of course they did. I mean, how do you think we found, through facial recognition of the FBI, the Belgian bomber? Why would we have their facial recognition data? So, is this legal, what you're telling me, and why would they do it? Why would they set this up this way? So, sharing our information and our private identifying information, facial recognition, biometric, outside of the United States for official purposes, like at a consulate, at an embassy, through Secret Service or anything like that, is legal, right? Or through Interpol. But to have a company that houses everybody's data and any private person can buy that data or investigate that data or analyze that data, that's fine. And that's exactly what GSG is doing.
Early 2009, John Brennan left government and went to work for a small intelligence contractor here in the Virginia area, suburban Virginia area, just outside of Washington. The company was called the Analysis Corporation. There are subsidiaries of subsidiaries. Some of these companies are spun out, go public, go private again. It's kind of hard to keep track of them.
In just 4 months, GSG, CGI, and other private contractors allegedly had unauthorized access to the entire Five Eyes network. Unfiltered, unrestricted, decompartmentalized, outside any government regulation or oversight. Not surprising, the CIA gets caught 1 year later spying on the U.S. Senate. Their excuse? It was their own network they had set up for the Senate to use, so they had authorization.
A towering figure in American foreign policy, an extended member of the NBC News family as well, Zbigniew Brzezinski, Jimmy Carter's national security advisor.
Jillian Turner, Fox News host, was also vice president of Jones Group International, doing an interview with her old boss and my old boss. Now, why would I assume that they would be using anything other than the Shavernet? Because the owner of the Shavernet has so many key assets, why would he need to go to anybody else, right? So they get their talking points from the analysts that are putting it together, but then they disseminate those talking points through non-attribution to their assets throughout these news organizations.
All over the world.
Utilizing an application like the Shavernet, what he had been doing and what he was doing, and used that to exploit him as a way to hurt Trump.
Since their whole attempt to have him employ a company to help him win and use these psychological operations that the left was using at
several instances where he's rejected the opportunity to take advantage of influence operations, be it IIA supported or just your standard run-of-the-mill influence operations, right? They've rejected that.
And the thing is, people like Roger Stone aren't saints, but they're not demons either. They skirt the outs, and they're great at what they do. And, you know, you either love him or not. It's like brie cheese. But the one thing that you can be sure of is that he sticks to his principles. And if he's your friend, especially if he's been your friend for 40 years, like he was with President Trump, there's no way he's going to flip on you to save his butt. Ever. Because that's what honest people do.
For the safety and security of our global community is of critical importance.
Keep a safe distance of 6 feet from others.
Short from a major PR rollout, there is an international push for autonomous law enforcement to remove the human factor. Several features of the Interpol program indicate that they are using an iteration of ShadowNet and ClearForce technology. This March 2017 United States patent issued to Jim Jones III and ClearForce spells it out. Quote, systems and methods for electronically monitoring to determine potential risk. Several diagrams in this patent look identical to the dashboard layout of the ShadowNet. The patent mentions integration with U.S. and international databases, local law enforcement, and individual state databases, all fed into international justice and public safety networks.
Couple months before they even had the hearing to see if he's going to be confirmed or not, nobody asked him, hey, did you by any chance get an offer from the president of Ukraine to work for them? It was all over the media, but not one person asked. You know who else helped them set it out? Bill Taylor and George Kent, those two clowns, also testified against the president. One of them has supersonic hearing. They can hear phones that are not on speakerphone from across the room. So,
That's odd. According to Tory, the alleged impeachment whistleblower was actually a wiretap. Hence supersonic hearing capabilities. Eric Ciaramella was a decoy to hide the fact that the president was being wiretapped through a 702 data over-collection problem connected to the Sunset Clause. Collection problem that the NSA Inspector General Robert Storch oversaw.
so the question is, what has been the Senate Intelligence Committee all complacent, every single one of them? Because it's their job to be our voice and ask those questions.
So I mean, I guess
Because they're in them.
So I guess the question is, are they all just that inept? Or is there something else going on? Section 702 of the FISA Amendment Act of 2008 was created to stop illegal surveillance.
Access through the administrative side platform, because I was one of the first on it, to be able to see all communications between people like Adam Schiff, Brennan, Feinstein's staffers, and General Jones, and many more that I don't want to say because I haven't publicized that yet, actually. Because there's foreign people. And I did see communications of former GCHQ head Hannigan. Robert Hannigan was part of the company at GSG, right? So I gave most of this information to Millie Weaver, and she put out a report. And even though I had legal access to all their communications, because I had my username and password, the minute she did that report, within just, I believe, almost instantaneously, the website was taken down and my access was revoked. They changed it across the planet. Maybe we should look at some old articles that I put out on Hurricane Electric to find those servers and those little bits and seed them correctly. So, I mean, you'd be able to seed it with something like a Keystone.
She's so smart.
I want to ask you about John Brennan and the blackmail. So, who all did he have blackmail collected on? Any politicians?
You mean that I've seen?
Yes.
A lot of people. Yes.
And politicians?
Yes.
very even, Stephen.
And I think indeed this is the case. I want to point out, someday, there's going to be a general recognition, a general awareness, a general consensus amongst journalists that